They are the global face of wildlife conservation. And after decades of campaigning, panda numbers are now slowly improving. But why then are some wildlife experts warning the species is under more threat than ever?
I'm Steve Chow. On this edition of 101 East, we ask, what's the future of China's pandas?
On any given morning here in southwest China, you can find thousands of die-hard fans queuing up, eager to be the first to catch a glimpse of China's most famous celebrities. With their furry black and white coats, they look very much like big cuddly teddy bears.
听说这里大熊猫非常多，而且特别萌，特别呆萌，就过来看了。
This breeding center has more pandas than anywhere else in the world. Like rock stars, their every move gets a reaction. These girls traveled hundreds of kilometers overnight to see them in action.
经历了蛮多的颠簸的，然后能够看到熊猫，觉得太幸运了，三生有幸。
Known to be extremely shy in the wild, here crowds get within a few feet of them, enthralled as they sleep, scratch, wrestle, and eat, and eat, and eat. An adult panda consumes up to 50 kilograms of bamboo shoots a day. There are now more pandas for the crowds to see, thanks to developments in artificial insemination. From a handful of injured pandas rescued in the wild, today the captive population has grown to more than 450. Last year, pandas were taken off the endangered list.
It really is amazing how one animal can generate so much excitement. The question is, how much are these crowds contributing to saving the species?
Li Zhi is one of China's leading panda experts.
This whole captive population phenomena is something to do with people's love to animal to an extent that they want to see, to touch, even to own one. I would bet that if the policy allows people to raise panda as a pet, there will be millions of people want to raise panda as a pet. That's love, but love can hurt.
Li has devoted decades to studying pandas in the wild. Research, she says, is underfunded.
If you're talking about investment in scientific research or observation of animals, captive panda perhaps attracted much more money than the wild panda. I would love to know how much money has been invested in captive population versus wild population.
Li believes breeding pandas in captivity is all about making a profit, not protecting the species. Case in point, the Yabuli ski resort in northern China. Here, tour operators are cashing in with two pandas, Yo-Yo and Sijia, on display. Despite this being in the middle of the mountains, there's little that's natural about their environment. When we arrive, we find them living on concrete floors, with fake trees, and behind glass. Keeper Yan Yongbing says having them here serves a greater purpose.
By bringing pandas here, it will help a lot of people who don't have an opportunity to see them elsewhere to understand and admire our national treasure.
He says his pandas live a good life.
Although they're constrained, our outdoor playground is still helping them. The playground is basically like nature.
That's if nature has loud music. Still, the pandas do seem to like the ski resort's outdoor enclosures. Yan says this is the closest thing to the wild that these two could ever survive in.
I don't think these two pandas can go into the wilderness. They've been kept in captivity too long. Any pandas to be reintroduced into the wild need to start training from a very young age in order for them to better adapt to the wilderness.
China has tried to reintroduce pandas into the wild, but it hasn't gone well. After decades of breeding efforts, Xiangxiang was the first to be released in 2006. Just a year later, his body was discovered lying in the snow in a bamboo forest.
It was found dead, with full of wounds on the body, probably beaten by other pandas.
Out of 7 pandas that have been released, the government says 4 are still alive.
You can say we paid the price for our failed attempts, but we learned our lesson.
Jia Jiansheng, the man behind the government's panda policies, has hope for the future.
We are using every way to teach these baby pandas how to survive in the wilderness. We hope pandas will participate in mating and breeding activities as soon as possible. That would mark our ultimate success in sending them back to the wild.
But even some top experts within China's own breeding program say releasing captive pandas won't work and is downright cruel. Li agrees.
Reintroduction is a very costly program. Personally, I think it's, from a scientific point of view, it's not necessary. Because we have 2,000 plus pandas in the wild, they can breed, they can live.
Outsiders have never been allowed to venture deep into panda territory, until now. We've been given exclusive access into these remote mountains in western China, the heart of panda habitat. We join He Liwen and his team of rangers. They're guardians of this vast expanse. He has devoted 20 years to protecting pandas. But it's a hard life. He's lost men to the harsh conditions here.
这个对他的感情是真的挺复杂的。你说让我欣赏他吧，我真的很欣赏他。但是我们为了找到他，为了看到他，为了拍到他，我们付出了很多的这个泪水、汗水，有时候甚至是血水。
They often spend weeks tracking pandas in sub-0 degree temperatures.
但是真的你把它拍到的时候啊，那种兴奋感、那种满足感，就由心底就生出来。哎呀，觉得这所有受的苦好像都值得。所以呢，对他呢是又爱又恨。
These pictures, captured on a camera trap, show the objects of his passion. Unlike those in captivity, these ones are living free in their natural environment. It's how He thinks they should live.
其实圈养的这一方面呢，人工培育的这一方面呢，是投入了很多的这个人力和物力。那么其实呢，野外的这一块呢，我觉得应该投入更多的人力和物力。
While He sees millions of dollars a year spent on captive bred pandas, he and his men get on with little funding and support. But they've learned to make do.
话术，对，野外去了，像没办法点火的时候，就把这个撕下来，当引火的材料。
The men are on constant lookout for signs, bite marks, paw prints, or droppings.
然后，如果像这种树的底部啊，有一个凹进去的这种，它会就这样窝在这儿，它会觉得很安全。有竹子的话，它抓过来，它就这样吃，吃完了，然后旁边屁股这样一撅，就拉屎。
Every bit of information they gather helps them better understand the animals they are trying to save. Tracking pandas for these forest rangers is difficult work. Sometimes it means going through this dense underbrush, trying to find their trail, and it's not easy. The landscape changes as we move deeper into panda territory.
开始出现大熊猫的食物分布了，那么有食物呢，就意味着它有可能是会在这些地方来活动的，因为有吃的东西。
The reserve spans almost 200,000 hectares of forest and mountains.
从这个我们现在眼睛看到的这个区域呢，也是我们保护区的核心区域了。那么大熊猫呢，所有的大熊猫都在这个。
According to He, their recent surveys show this place has more pandas than anywhere else. They estimate 110 live here.
我们是 No.1， 全国第一。 全世界第一。
Even with this concentration, most of He's men have only ever seen brief glimpses of these shy creatures. So rangers recently began installing camera traps throughout the reserve to better understand panda behavior.
看我们的红外相机。哎呀，先让它停止。这个现在相当于我们在野外的眼睛一样。
The men are eager to see what this camera has captured, but their hopes are quickly dashed.
没有的，没的，啥都没得。
这他们怎么知道呢？只有上当。啊？
这次运气不好，只拍到了我们人进来的这段画面。
Disappointed, they fit the device back on the tree. To make sure the angle is right, their teammates pretend to be pandas.
看得见吗？看不见。走，哎，你支起来吧，你支起来。看不见，看不见。哦，走对了，走对了。哦，走对了。啊，一会儿往。
对。They hope the next time the camera will capture a panda. But for now, we call it a day. The rangers are always worrying about the pandas. Slight fluctuations in supply of bamboo has at times led to many deaths.
林子里边发现了很多这个，因为没有食物造成的这个大熊猫死亡，发现了很多的尸体。所以呢，这个保护大熊猫的这个道路呢，还任重道远。
Just after dawn, we're back on the panda trail. After several hours, the rangers spot something.
在这儿，在这儿。你看，这儿有一个熊猫的脚印，这个也是。
To my untrained eye, it doesn't look like much. But He's team have found proof a panda is near.
拿一个圈一下，圈一下，拍个照片。这个你看它的爪子的印子，你看明显的很。你看这几个看，它的这个土的，你看咱们这个现在土是动过的、印的，你看见没有？
对。
它踩了之后，它应该是刚留下来的。
所以这个熊猫大概应该在这个附近吗？
对，它既然从这儿经过，应该顺着这个路，它到这个上边的这个竹林里去了。
Further up the hill, another discovery.
说明呢，这个应该是拉的这个粪便的时间呢，应该不是很长。
为什么你们看到动物的粪便那么开心找到了？
这个就是它生活在这儿的一个证据。有粪便，那肯定就有猫。
这没味道。
对，你可以，你看，它是还是一股竹子的那个清香味。
对。
We continue along a narrow ridge, hoping the panda is right around the corner. We come across another camera trap.
拍了748张视频。
哦，这个拍到金丝猴了，看。
金丝猴。
看没有？金丝猴。这个也是金丝猴。哦，熊猫，
大熊猫。
熊猫出来了，熊猫。
This time, we hit the jackpot.
在下雨还是下雪？你看，
下雪。
它靠着那个树上。
你看它在闻那个树，看见没有？
嗅那个树上。
看，找这棵树，应该就在前面这棵。
那个。
找这棵树，看一下上面有没有那个熊猫蹭的毛发啊之类的东西。
Well, so far we found a paw print, we found fairly fresh panda scat, and a camera trap has actually captured a picture of a panda. This is likely the closest we'll ever get to one of these wild creatures, but it's a pretty good day.
Back at the makeshift camp, it's time to celebrate their success. The team's cooking up a feast. Everyone's in good spirits. And for her, it's a chance to reflect on what they've achieved.
以前呢，光是我们都在说我们在保护它，那么它到底在野外怎么样的生活的状态好不好，那么人们都不知道。
While there's lots of studies on how pandas live in zoos, these images offer a rare insight into pandas in their natural environment.
我们就拍到了一只大猫带小猫的，那个小猫呢，努力的它还不太会走路，它就这样蹒跚着，努力的跟着这个大猫的屁股后边，所以那个拍到了这样一个场景。
He believes this knowledge will go a long way to help save the species.
所以这个会怎么帮你们了解他们的生活？
通过这些拍到的视频呢，我们就可以知道，就是说，一个是大熊猫的这个发情期的这个时间的长短，那么在这个区间呢，在这个季节，那么就尽量要减少这个人为的干扰，因为它到了生产期了，它到了交配期了。就和这个。
He says one thing they've learned is that the cute, lazy creatures most people see in captivity are nothing like their wild cousins.
它们是很凶狠的，你看腿也打掰了，脸也毁容了，对不对？对。所以它呢是在大自然当中呢，这个野性就显露无遗了，就。
While the vision shows pandas can be vicious to each other, humans are their biggest threat. The next day, we see that threat on the edge of a nearby reserve. An entire city has sprung up here. Wildlife conservation expert Li Zhi says they've been pushing the government for decades to limit human encroachment into panda areas.
The best panda habitat used to be very remote and quiet. Now you have many people in it. So quality of panda habitats perhaps are not increasing.
It's not just more people and more towns. There's also pressure from big business. It's raining when we arrive on Longmen Mountain. 11 pandas call this place home. But as we soon discover, their sanctuary is also the site of a phosphate mine. Extracting this mineral from the earth heavily damages the environment. In 2012, the government allowed the mine to expand operations. The river below has become a murky morass, and an entire mountain is now being carved up.
How heartbreaking. I mean, this is the center of a panda reserve, and look at it. Entire portions are torn up. It's hard to imagine how pandas could thrive, let alone survive, in places like this.
In the past 50,000 years, we had gradually pushed the panda up to harsher environment and a narrower range.
Pandas used to roam throughout China and parts of Southeast Asia. Now they are reduced to 67 reserves inside the country. Some are so small they don't have any pandas living within them. Last December, after more than half a century of lobbying by conservationists, China's president announced plans to help the wild panda, making a massive national park and creating wildlife corridors connecting existing reserves. But it won't mean the end of captive pandas. They are just too valuable, not only as money-making tourist attractions, but as diplomatic tools. Back in 1972, U.S. President Richard Nixon and the First Lady were given a pair of pandas, a reward for restarting relations between the two countries.
All of a sudden, there was a panda rush that all of the world loved the panda.
Today, 14 countries have pandas on loan, rewards for lucrative deals with China. These two are in Malaysia. But pandas don't come for free. Malaysia gives China more than $1 million a year for the pair, and another $600,000 for the couple's newborn. Add up all the pandas globally, and China's raking in tens of millions every year. Eventually, every one of them must also return home.
China lend pandas to zoos all over the world. In return, get money back. Is that commercial business or fundraising for conservation program? How much of that money actually spent in conservation, especially in wild population? Is there any accountability to actually check?
The government denies the panda program is about making money.
但是我们熊猫去的主要目的不是说是为了赚钱。
The main purpose of sending pandas to zoos is not for profit, but to promote the idea of wildlife protection.
Conservationists like He Liwen dream of the day when this unique species no longer needs to play to the cameras in zoos.
毕竟这个圈养的大熊猫呢，就像人被关到了一个房子里，也失去了自由一样，在那么一个有限的空间内活动。其实圈养的熊猫呢，真的是应该怎么这个词来怎么说，挺悲哀的。谁不希望生活的无拘无束？谁不希望回到他自己生活的这一片家园？
The dilemma is, pandas are the beloved face of wildlife conservation. Is the world willing to simply let them disappear from sight, back into the wild? Or does the public's love for pandas mean they can never go home?